Republicans and Democrats, would take some time to put politics aside, because we had a once-in-a-generation challenge. Because although we are proud to be Democrats, we are prouder to be Americans. And there are plenty of Republicans around the country that feel the same way, but Republican leaders in Washington, they made a different decision. They realized, they looked around and they said, boy, we really made a big mess out of this economy. And it's going to take a long time to fix it. And in the meantime, people will probably be angry and frustrated. So maybe if we just sit on the sidelines and say no to everything and don't lift a finger to help, knowing that unemployment will still be high, maybe people will blame the Democrats instead of us. That was their basic strategy. And so now in this election, the other side is betting on amnesia. They're betting that you forgot who caused this mess in the first place. Charlottesville, it is up to you to let them know that we have not forgotten. It's up to you to remember this election is a choice between the policies that got us into this mess and the policies that are getting us out of this mess. Let me tell you something. If they win this election, the chair of a Republican campaign committee has promised, quote, the exact same agenda as before Tom and I took office. In other words, this is the agenda that resulted in the worst economy since the Great Depression. An agenda of cutting taxes, mostly for millionaires and billionaires. You cut the rules for special interests, big corporations. You cut middle-class families loose to fend for themselves. It's the same agenda that turned a record surplus into a record deficit. The same agenda that allowed Wall Street to run wild. The same agenda that nearly destroyed our economy. Now, look, this is not as if we have not tried their agenda. Charlottesville, we tried it for 8 years. It didn't work. And so, I bring all this up not because I want to re-argue the past, I just don't want to relive the past. We've been through it before. Think about what has happened over the last 20 months. Because of the steps we've taken, we no longer face the possibility of a second depression. The economy is growing again. Private sector jobs we've seen increase 9 months in a row. Now, look, nobody knows better than Tom that we've still got a long way to go. We've still got a lot of work to do. There are too many people hurting here and all across the country. There are families who are still hanging on by a thread. That's what keeps me up at night. That's what keeps Tom up at night. How can we help families who got hit hard during this recession? How can we make sure that they're back up on their feet? But you know what? We've got a different idea about what the next 2 years should look like, what the next 10 and 20 years should look like. It's very different from what the Republicans are thinking. It's an idea rooted in our belief about how this country was built. I just had a chance to meet Tom's mom. Just talking to her, you can tell that this is somebody who understands what it means to work hard, to raise a family. And both Tom and I know what it's like to see our families struggle once in a while. And we know that government doesn't have all the answers to our problems. And And we believe government should be lean and it should be efficient. And we believe that job growth is going to come from the private sector and that each of us have responsibilities to take individual initiative to make it. But, you know, in the words of the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, we also believe the government should do for the people what the people can't do better for themselves. We believe in hard work and responsibility, but we also believe in a country that invests in its future, that invests in its children, that helps workers get retrained, where we look after one another, where we say, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper. That's the America we love. That's the America we believe in. That's the choice in this election. We believe in an America that invests in its future and its people. An America that's built to compete in the 21st century. We know the jobs and businesses of tomorrow will end up in the countries with the most educated workforce, the best infrastructure, the strongest commitment to research and technology. I want that nation to be the United States of America. I want that nation to be the U.S. of A. USA. There is no reason that China should have faster railroads or newer airports than we do. We're the nation that built the transcontinental railroad. We're the nation that built the interstate highway system. Today we see in America where we put, because of Tom's effort, because of our efforts, we've put thousands of people right here in Virginia, to work building new railroads and runways, highways. In America, where we build an infrastructure for the 21st century and put people to work, doing the work that America needs doing. We see in America where we invest in homegrown innovation and ingenuity, where we export more goods so we create more jobs here at home, where we make it easier to start a business or patent an invention. We don't want to keep giving tax breaks to companies that ship jobs overseas. We want to get tax breaks to companies that are investing right here in Charlottesville, right here in Virginia, to small businesses and American manufacturers and clean energy companies. I don't want solar panels and wind turbines and electric cars made in Europe or made in Asia. I want them made here in the United States of America with American workers. That's the choice in this election. We see in America where every citizen, not just some, but every citizen, have the skills and the training to compete with any worker in the world. We can't allow other countries to outcompete us when it comes to math or science or college graduation rates. We used to be number one in college graduation rates. Now we're number 9. We used to be number 1 in science and math. Now we're 21st and 25th. That makes no sense. And that's why, working with Tom, we've made historic investments in education. That's why we set a goal that by 2020 we will once again have the highest proportion of college graduates in the world. That's why Tom and I refuse to think it makes sense to pay for a $700 billion tax cut for millionaires and billionaires, and then cut education by 20% to pay for it. Let me tell you, China's not cutting education. South Korea's not cutting its education spending. India's not cutting education spending. Germany's not cutting education spending. Those countries aren't playing for second place, and neither does the United States of America. We play for first place. That's why, thanks to Tom, tens of billions of dollars in taxpayer subsidies that used to go to the big banks are now going where they should, to you, to students, to help support your college education. That's why we want to make permanent the college tax credit that Tom Perriello fought for, a tax credit worth $10,000 of tuition relief for each student. That is the choice in this election. That is the America. In America where corporations live up to their responsibilities, to treat consumers fairly, to play by the same rules as everybody else. That's why we made sure insurance companies can't jack up your premiums for no reason or deny you coverage because you're sick. That's why we made sure credit card companies can't hit you with hidden fees and penalties. That's why we made sure taxpayers never again are on the hook for the irresponsibility of Wall Street. We see in America where we don't pass on a mountain of debt to the next generation, and we will attack the trillion-dollar deficit that I inherited when I took office, but we will do it in a responsible way, not by cutting education. We won't do it by putting the burden on our children, or our seniors, or our veterans, or our middle-class families. We won't do it by borrowing another $700 billion to give tax cuts to folks who don't need them and weren't even asking for them. We'll do it by asking for shared sacrifice from all Americans. That's how we do things in America. That's the choice in this election. Charlottesville, we've got a lot of work to do in these next few years. Yes. Exactly. We've got a lot of work to do in the next few years, and we need to work together. Democrats and Republicans, independents, all to get it done. But the leaders of the other parties, so far, they don't see it that way. Well, they're feeling kind of cocky right now. They're feeling a little cocky, and the Republican leader in the House says that this is not the time for compromise. That's what he said. That's a quote. This is not the time for compromise. The Republican leader of the Senate said that his main goal for the next 2 years, this is his top priority, is to beat me in the next election. That's his top priority. I mean, he didn't say my top priority is to create jobs for folks in Virginia. He didn't say my top priority is to make America more competitive. He's already thinking about the next election. This one's not even over yet. We haven't even finished this election. He's already thinking about the next election. That's what's wrong with Washington. That doesn't make any sense. That's the kind of cynicism that we're fighting against. That's the kind of politics we need to change in this country. That puts scoring points ahead of solving problems. I mean, it's so prevalent. It happens every day. And the sad thing is sometimes that cynicism is rewarded. So sometimes, because of all the special interest money pouring in, all the negative ads, all the clout, sometimes, folks who are operating in the best interest of their constituents, sometimes they don't win. Because folks don't turn out, because folks don't vote, because folks feel like, well, this is just too hard.